Well, folks, it's finally starting to happen. The cracks and the crevices are starting to be shown in the foundation. It's something that we alluded to a few weeks ago on the channel. I made a video talking about some potential concerns. It's time to be honest about things, and people thought I was outlandish, an overreaction. That's not the case, this, that, or the other, but now there's more and more instances of this happening, and empires don't crumble overnight. It's not an instantaneous thing, at least most of the time. You start to have the warning signs, you start to see the writing on the wall, and it's really a matter of whether or not you take heed to what is happening, whether or not you pay detailed attention to it, or if you think it's just an isolated incident. I, of course, am talking about the rise and now the potential fall of the Nintendo Switch, a system that, let's be real, even though I'm not a Nintendo YouTuber, is something we talk a lot about on this channel because it's just something I've been following. I like to talk about things that I feel like I have a good pulse on my finger with the industry with. If it's something that's kind of, out there, like AR stuff, okay, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to talk about some weird, Japanese exclusive system unless I bought it or something like that from the retro library. I like to talk about things that I feel well versed in. And with the Nintendo Switch, about 2 weeks ago or so, I made a video saying that it was time to be honest about the system because there were some interesting things that were happening with it as far as the hardware sales are confirmed. The Nintendo Switch, for the NPD numbers, actually struggled to finish in first place once again. And it's not a huge deal. I'm not trying to say it is a huge deal. I'm trying to say that it's a warning sign. It is a crack in the foundation, especially when you just had a big game like Splatoon 3 launch. You're starting to get to a point with the Nintendo Switch that I like to call oversaturation. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, but I want to talk about the main thing, the new crack in the foundation, what people are saying about it as to sort of counter that, and how I can also counter their counters. So with the latest sales from Famitsu that basically talks about system sales for the previous week in Japan, the Nintendo Switch was actually outsold by a decent little margin, nothing too crazy or anything like that, but the PlayStation 5 managed to overtake the Nintendo Switch in Japan for one of the rare times that this has happened. Now, on the surface level, it's not really that big of a deal, right? I mean, hey, the Switch is still selling. You're not getting Xbox numbers or anything from this. But once again, I'm looking at the bigger picture with this. I'm looking at the cracks and the crevices potentially in the foundation. I'm not even necessarily talking about the fact that a lot of Nintendo Switch owners can agree that performance on the system is definitely lacking, especially in the modern era. We're coming into 2023 and first-party titles on this system are struggling. They're struggling in terms of frame rate. They're struggling in terms of visual clarity and quality. It's just a fact. It's not being mean towards the system. It's not saying, no, I hate this system. I still play 8-bit games, okay? I'm not a graphics whore, but when you have a sort of industry standard that every other company is doing, and you have sort of a standard as far as frame rates and visuals are concerned, it's definitely noticeable on weaker hardware. Now, what concerns me about the whole Famitsu sales as far as the sales of systems are concerned with the PlayStation 5 outselling the Switch is nothing's really happening for the PlayStation 5 right now. Stateside, you could definitely make a case. A lot of people are excited for God of War Ragnarok, but in Japan, where Sony used to have some pretty good dominance of that market, at least be a very competitive competitor, they've completely abandoned the Japanese market. That's something that a lot of people seem to be forgetting. It's definitely more of a Western focused company now, maybe because the West is the biggest video games, receiver as far as buying games and buying systems are concerned. And Sony maybe saw the writing on the wall with that. But to have your system, who isn't really focused on that market anymore, outsell the Nintendo Switch, which, let's be realistic, is definitely a more Japanese focused system with it's something for everyone on it, should be a little bit concerning. Now, I've seen some things on the Twitters. I'm not going to call these people out because they're kind of homies. I'm not going to call it the homies. I like to call it the people that, well, I don't really like because I don't care what you go say to them. I've seen two different things that were being said. I've seen that companies are, retailers are stockpiling their Nintendo Switch systems for the launch of Pokemon, and I've seen that there's been supply issues with Splatoon 3 releasing and being very popular in Japan, and that's why retailers don't have as many Nintendo Switch systems. It's not that people don't want the systems, it's that people can't get the systems, and to that I say, poppycock. I can go on Amazon of Japan right now and purchase a Nintendo Switch. Usually whenever there's some shortages of a system, people in Japan, because places like Twitter are a worldwide entity, you would see people having this discussion. I've seen it many of times when systems sell out. You know, retailers have signs up. Yeah, we haven't seen anything from that. We haven't heard anything from that. It seems like everything is pretty much status quo as far as Japan is concerned. Holding back systems because of an upcoming game, that doesn't make any sense. If you have the system in stock and you're a business, you're going to sell that system. You've already bought that system from Nintendo. You're trying to recoup money on that and then sell things within your store. You want people in your store. That's kind of how a business runs. You want people to come in and buy a Nintendo Switch system and then pick up some accessories or something you'll actually make money on. So to hold back for Pokemon, that doesn't make any sense to me. And I guess you could kind of make that argument. I just feel like that argument relies on, you know, believing something that we don't have any real sort of proof of. Now, like I said, these are two inconsistencies that we've seen with the Nintendo Switch recently. The NPD stuff, and now with the Japanese market seeming to enjoy the PlayStation 5. Maybe the PlayStation 5 is starting to become more readily available in the region, but there is the big Pokemon game coming out, so Nintendo Switch sales will skyrocket once again, right? I mean, more than likely, they will go up, because people enjoy the system and people of course enjoy Pokemon. Pokemon is a cultural phenomenon. However, I still go back to one of the main points that I made in that previous video, and that is the oversaturation aspect of it. Once you get to a certain point with system sales, it's pretty much negligible how big of an increase you'll get, at least throughout video game history. When you look at something like the PlayStation 2, why did the PlayStation 2 continue to sell? Sony wasn't selling that original PlayStation 2 model. They of course had a bunch of variants. They had cheaper variants such as the PlayStation 2 Slim and the Ultra Slim, and all of these different systems that came out within the PlayStation 2 umbrella. Still played PlayStation 2 games, but they were cheaper alternatives. When you look at the Switch, and really the Switch Lite in Japan, the Switch Lite isn't really selling all that great. The Switch Lite isn't really selling all that great anywhere, and if people really wanted to play these upcoming Switch games, I feel like if they didn't have the system, they would just pick up the Switch Lite, but I digress. That's still just, you know, another hypothetical point, I would say, with that. But I feel like the whole argument starts to come in with people. We don't need a Switch revision. We need a Switch successor. And to that, I don't know that that's actually the case. Because a revision, let's be realistic here. At its very core, we all expect this new Nintendo Switch, whenever it comes out, next year, 5 years from now, whenever it is, we expect when this system to come out to essentially be what the Nintendo Switch is, but better. A better screen, a better way to play your games, better visuals, better visual quality when it comes to, you know, first and third party games, better frame rates and better graphics. And if you're not reinventing the wheel with this, why not just make a revision that's stronger? When you look at system sales for something like the PlayStation 4, you have the PlayStation 4, you have the PlayStation 4 Slim, you have the PlayStation 4 Pro, which plays games better than the PlayStation 4 does. Same thing with the Xbox. You have the Xbox One X, and you have the Xbox One S, and the Xbox One VCR. I don't understand why people are so hell-bent on the next system being a successor when what you have is working. It's slowing down. It's showing cracks in the foundation. It's showing that the writing is on the wall, that you need to start pivoting potentially to another system. But if that same system has the Switch branding, but it's just an enhanced system, that buys you a little more time, especially with the way that the video game industry is working right now. What's the next move? What's the next pivot? Are we going away from physical media? Are we embracing the all digital age? If so, would that help companies with putting their games on a system? Because now you don't have to worry about physical cartridges, which can be limited by software size. I'm kind of going all over the place with this. I completely understand that, but that's kind of how my thought process is with this system. With the Nintendo Wii, the writing was on the wall. There were definitely signs that everything was starting to slow down, but Nintendo has gone on record and said, we took too long to react to that. We took too long to sort of make an impact. And that's why you got the Wii to the Wii U era, a system that absolutely dominated in terms of sales and in software sales, then got a new system that was the successor to it that completely bombed. It completely failed. So I just feel like, you know, there's so many things happening within the video game industry. You have three titans when it comes to consoles and home consoles and just home video games in general. You have Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo. Obviously, Sony and Microsoft are doing similar things, but kind of different things at the same time. So why not do something different if you're a Nintendo and go above and beyond and make this revised system, but make it something that, you know, maybe only, you know, like the new 3DS situation. You tried it with that, it didn't really work out, but the 3DS wasn't quite the success that a Nintendo Switch is. I think it's worth trying again, because do you really want to start down from ground zero with this on the bottom floor with systems like the Xbox and the PlayStation 5 finally getting their footing? Something has to come eventually. Everything comes to an end. The Switch isn't going to last forever. It's already showing problems on the technical side of things. And if it's starting to show problems on the sales side of things, that should be alarming for Nintendo and investors. But hey, you know what? People will say I'm wrong about this, and everyone's allowed to have their own opinion. This is just my viewpoint of it. It's my philosophy of it. And I think that it's a solid philosophy. If you disagree, feel free to talk in the comments section down below. You know, that's why the comments exist, for you to disagree. If I was someone who didn't want to hear different opposing viewpoints or agreeing viewpoints, I would turn off comments. Isn't that weird when people do that? Like, even some of my most disliked videos, I'm never gonna turn off the comments. Say whatever you want about my opinions and my beanie or something. I don't really care. And as always, guys, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to give me your feedback in the comment section down below, though. Seriously, because something's got to give. Something has got to give at some point in time. And I feel like that point in time might be coming sooner than a lot of us anticipated. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.